liberty. This is the Bill Mason Show.
Hello, welcome to the Bill Mason Show. This is an exciting show today. This is October the 30th, 2019, and we're talking about the issues of the day. I'm Mason, and that's Bill. How you doing, Bill?
Here we go. I'm surviving.
Good. So the first subject line today is let's talk about the impeachment. What's going on with that?
To me, it looks like not much has changed. It's a lot of media coverage. It's a lot of speculation. It's yet to hit the House floor. There's some news of people that are quote unquote ready to testify. It's funny that CNN is talking about certain people that are ready to testify, like they're in pocket already, like they're ready to convict Trump. And it's so funny that they use all of these things. If this were like a regular court proceeding, I think we'd be laughing because they wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff, all this leaking and of nonsense information, but they won't leak any information that's like about the whistleblower. Like the only information I got is that he used to work for James Clapper, and then he worked with John Brennan as well. I mean,
he's never Trumper. He's never been a Trumper.
Oh my God! Like this is very suspicious. It's very suspicious.
Yeah, I agree. John Bolton was supposed to testify or going to testify. Supposedly, it's the headline of the Drudge right now. I have the Drudge report up right now. That's coming up, and I don't know what he's going to say. What do you think he's going to say about what's going on? Because when he left office, it wasn't a pretty sight when that happened.
I think it wasn't pretty because of the disagreement on policy. I think it's really starting to show that Donald Trump is taking his promise seriously, that he wants to work towards a total withdrawal of troops and the global police force. And I think Bolton is the polar opposite of that. But Bolton would be happy if we had American troops on every single border of every country.
Oh yeah, I mean, he wanted to go into Venezuela so bad he can lick the chops. He wanted to put more troops in Afghanistan. He wanted to put more troops in Syria. Trump got elected pulling his troops out. That's the reason why he wants to pull out of Syria all the way. He wants to pull out of Afghanistan. So let other people take care of it, not us being a global police force. So you're right about that. Do you think he has something that he can say about Ukraine? Or, the transcript said that's not a full transcript of the Ukraine conversation. What are your thoughts?
I noticed that, but then I listen to like talk radio pretty much all day. And what I do too, even though I don't agree with NPR, so I'm listening to NPR radio, which is notoriously liberal. And I'm listening to them talk about the fact that it's normal you cannot get the actual call like in an audio format. Like that will never be released to the American public. It never has been before. It's always a transcript. So it always leaves room for you to say, hey, what are they leaving out? Or what are they not telling us? And that's kind of like the right of the executive branch. I mean, realistically, it's his job to negotiate treaties and deal with all these foreign dignitaries. That's his job. That's his article powers. Right. I mean,
so it's okay for the UK. That's where the dossier came from, the Russia collusion. It's okay for the UK to make a dossier about Trump. The Democrats to pay for it. And how much was it? $8 million?
Yeah, it was not cheap. And the DNC is involved too.
Right.
They paid a portion of it.
Right. So it's okay for UK to to make a dossier about Trump and the Russia collusion, and it's all false. But it's not okay for us to ask the Ukraine to investigate Biden and son, since he was part of the Ukraine gas company.
And I think that the nugget of all of this is they're talking about the quid pro quo aspect of it, and the Ukraine got the money. Now, from what I understand, a portion of it was actual funds, money transferred, and a portion of it was medical equipment, military equipment. They got it. It was not withheld. It was maybe paused at one point, but that is also normal for a regime change, which is basically what happened in the Ukraine. A guy that got elected, he was like a talk show host. So Trump, doing the right thing, basically went in there and said, hey, man, I just want to make sure you're like, not this crazy crook like the rest of the Ukrainians were that are just going to siphon the money out and maybe sell off the equipment we send you. I mean, I think it was a good thing. I read the transcript. It seemed like a normal Trump call. And that's the thing. If you're a Trump hater, if you're a person that hates his guts, every word that comes out of his mouth, you're going to go, oh my God, he's terrible. He's awful. That's just what they do. But then again, that's how Trump negotiates. I've read his books. He's very personal. He's very like, for example, there are people in his inner circle that say, he says, do me a favor almost every day. Like there's people in his Secret Service detail that he's like, hey, do me a favor. Can you, open that window for me, or, whatever. Like that's like one of his words. And if you notice, Trump has this little book of words that he says over and over again. That's kind of like his thing. So the whole Democrat do me a favor thing that they highlighted several times and said, there's the quid pro quo. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody has their words that they say all the time over and over again. So, and Trump definitely has words that he says over and over again. Which I like. So,
sure. And not to get off the Bolton subject too, but like the breakup, they call it a breakup. So here's the other thing that gets me. It kind of irks me. Whenever Trump has somebody either leave via resignation or he fires them, they're like, oh, the turmoil in the executive branch and all this other stuff. Trump has always operated that way, even when he was on a TV show. If you didn't toe the line or didn't agree with him, and he didn't see that he can move forward with you, you were fired, or basically said, look, you should go elsewhere. I mean, that's kind of a Trump thing too. And I wonder if people are willing to accept that. That might not be how previous administrations work, but Trump is not a guy who's going to say, hey, you know what? You've been here 22 years. I know you suck at your job, but I'm going to keep you. Right. He's not that guy. Yeah. He's like, you suck. Get out.
Yeah, that was Obama. That was Bush. All them. You can stay here. You've been here for 100 years. You can stick around.
Yeah, and Trump is the opposite of that. He's like, dude, what have you done lately? And if it's not anything, he's like, hit the bricks.
Right.
I mean, we elected him. That's it. I know I did. I elected him. I mean, these Democrats could kind of turn over the results, but I know that's what I put him in for.
I thought Russia elected him.
Yeah. Russia put him in. I know.
Yeah, Russia put him in.
The biggest fear is that the American public will interfere with this election. I think they're really more scared about that than anything.
Right. What's going to be funny is when he gets reelected, we're going to say, yeah, Russia reelected him again.
Sure.
That's going to be hilarious. And
not to bounce around, but another show I was listening to today. Was not NPR, but it came on right after it. And they were talking about how actually Hillary Clinton talking about everything is Russia. Russia's attacking this country. It emboldens Russians, and they're not that powerful. So they basically have the economy of Texas. They have 150 million people. And for them to all of a sudden be like the access to the United States and be able to literally interfere with every single push button action that goes on in this country is a farce, and it empowers them. It makes them look like they actually have effects, but they don't. This is a stupid ruse from the Democrats. They need a scapegoat. They picked one. It happened to be Russia, but it's turning out that some of the crap is coming from the Ukraine.
Right. Exactly. Well, I mean, Russia's not a globalist country, so that's
Right.
another reason why they're picking on them too. They're not want to toe the line, so to say. Um,
Russia's about Russia.
exactly. They're nationalists. They want Russia to grow, and we're the United States. We want United States to grow. We don't
Right.
want to be intertwined with every war. Um, give nations free money. We want it all to come here to grow us, not grow everybody else.
And on that note, like if you really looked at the news and you were just a person that didn't live in the United States and say you lived in another country, a civilized country, and you watch the news as a whole, you start to see that nationalism is kind of growing. And
Hmm.
you look at the people in Hong Kong, the protests, and you watch them wave the American flags back and forth, and the stuff that they want, which is due process, Second Amendment rights, the rights to be, free. All of those things that are happening, they want to become a nationalist like situation. And even Turkey, I don't like Erdogan, so to speak, but
Hmm.
he's a nationalist
Yeah.
and he's for Turkey. And I get it. Like it's a really dicey situation because he's in NATO, but acting like a rogue state, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
So he's a NATO like member who's literally willing to deal with everybody. I just read an article that he went to Pakistan 2 weeks ago for the nuclear cooperation initiative. So he
Hmm.
wants to deal with Pakistan on a nuclear level.
Hmm.
So because he's a NATO guy, this will go under the radar. He'll be able to maybe procure nuclear capability without our interaction
Hmm.
and not be considered a rogue state when he's acting like a rogue state. I mean,
Hmm.
I really don't like to get into Middle East politics because it's been a really muddy mess for
Yes,
centuries.
it's a big mess. It's
It's a
still a big
mess.
mess. I don't think it's
And
going to change anytime soon either.
no, and I think Trump's right where there's only a certain amount of influence that the United States can put with boots on the ground. And the moving thing for me was I watched the rally and he talked about Dover Air Force Base, which is right near me, and I've been there several times. I've gone there for air shows, and I know it's one of the busiest Air Force bases on the eastern seaboard because it lands those big, Galaxy airplanes where the nose opens up
Hmm.
and it's full of American caskets. And
Hmm.
Trump has gone there and saw those flag covered caskets and had to shake the hands of the fathers of these people and all this stuff. And he, at the end of the day, says, you know what? I did promise to do that. So I'm going to do it. And there are all these war hawks that are currently in Congress. And I get it. Like that's what they do. They have their hands really deep in that honey pot.
Hmm.
But Trump's going to do what he's going to do. And he's the executive branch. So they have powers, and so does Trump. And I think the thing that Democrats are really showing is that they are overstepping their power while trying to nullify the executive branch power at the same time. And if you're not paying attention, you think that's normal. And that's what's scary.
Yeah, that's not normal. I mean, when you talk about nationalists, that they think it's a bad word. Um,
Yeah,
when nationalists, you come up with, they associate with Hitler. Hitler was a socialist, which
right.
is actually a left word. It's a Democrat word. Socialism is where the Democrat Party wants to take us. So
True.
it's not we're not part of the. We don't like Nazis either. We don't want to kill everybody. We love everybody, from any color, any country. We want everybody to be safe, free, and be
Yeah.
patriotic to their own country. So we're not a hateful society at all. So, but let's just talk about. Let's go into the political realm. It looks like Biden is going down in the polls. Uh,
Oh man.
the
Oh
Bernie is going up in polls. It looks
yeah.
like Hillary is going to jump in. We talked about that last week, but
Yeah.
Hillary looks like she might be jumping anytime now. She's going to have to do it pretty soon. I
Why
would
not?
think at least by January. What do you think?
Why not at this
Mhm.
point? Because it looks to me like it's this big democratic soup. And it's hard to differentiate who's crazier. And I talked to somebody just yesterday, And I've known this guy for a while. He's very liberal, but he's got a good heart. And I asked him, I said, all right, if you had to pick right now, who would you pick? And he's like shaking his head going, Bill, I don't know, man. He's like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He's like, I want to get behind Warren, but she's way too far out there. He's like, I hate socialism, but you know, I know that Biden, if he gets, in his words exactly, if Biden gets a nomination, Trump will shred him. And he thinks that Warren has the better shot versus Trump because she's a woman. And this is the best part. He's this diehard liberal who says, I know that there are women out there that will vote for her simply because she's female. And he might be right. But
they're going to vote for her just because she's a Democrat.
Well, a Democrat and because she's a female. So the females that maybe regret the Trump vote, like, oh my God, you know, whatever. That's what he thinks. And that's his opinion. And he's a friend. I can call him a friend. And he's a liberal. And we've had discussions back and forth for 10 years now. And I'm not going to change his mind, and he's not going to change my mind. But to ask him, this is just the telltale thing. To ask him to pick a candidate at this point, he just shakes his head and he's like, it's a mess. And it really is. This Democratic show is an absolute mess.
Well, next week we're going to have somebody on as a guest. He used to be a big Bernie fan a few years ago, and now he's a big Trump fan. So we're going to see why he converted. He's a young guy. So
excellent.
See, his point of view.
That'd be really cool because actually the young people that I talk to, I deal with some college age kids myself, and they want to get involved in politics, and they really don't like the way it's gone, but they really do see conservative values as a plus in the column. So I talked to a 23-year-old who's never voted before. He didn't vote when he was 18 because it was I forget. It was like in between elections, and then he didn't want to vote in the Trump election for whatever reason. And I get it. So now he sees that, like, he's like, you know, I want to own a home, raise a family. My values generally are conservative. And I see that that's kind of like, it gives everybody room to expand and everybody room to live the conservative values. And he's like, and I see the Democratic side, and he's like, I can't vote Democrat because they want to force everybody else to do things that maybe they don't want to do. And he's like, that's not me. I'd rather be on the side of, okay, make your own way. And I love that about the kid. I mean, I think he's going to be a great, you know, human in his future, but he's never voted before. And I think he's going to vote Trump this year because we've talked at length about, you know, society and, you know, how there are times where you really have to go with your heart, man. And you can't let this propaganda steer you down a road that you're really not sure you want to go down. You know, see, that's the thing. These young guys, they love the environment. And I do too. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. I love to be out in the mountains, streams. I want those streams clean. I don't want anybody to dump waste into them. I'm not an anti-environmentalist, and I'm not against coal because I had a recent trip to West Virginia, and I come in contact with people who are smiling from ear to ear. Donald Trump gave us our jobs back because they drive trucks and they transport coal from point A to B. And during the Obama era, they were literally out of work, wondering if they could pay their mortgages. And now they're back working because guess what? Whether you regulate it or not, tax it or not, people still use coal as just like they use any other energy source. And Trump's right. You could knock out wind towers if we were at a war. You could knock out a turbine. You can knock out solar panels, but coal always burns. And he's exactly right about that. And you know, so anyway, that's a big circular argument that I just posted there. But the young people, I think, are really not as gullible as the media wants to make them out to be, as they're all pro-liberal agenda because they love the environment. I think there is a happy medium, and they know that they can get it through a conservative value.
Yeah, he said the light just turned on a few years ago. I'll say about a year ago, and so he's a big fan. So we'll talk to him next week, and then
awesome.
So as far as Twitter is concerned, Twitter announced today they're going to eliminate political ads. Are they going to survive?
I don't know how, because it looks to me like Twitter is the biggest political platform that you could ask for.
Mm.
And I mean, some of the promoted tweets that have come my way. I'm a big Twitter guy. I will admit it. Even though I hate Twitter for the throttling and the things that they do to conservatives, I still go on it every day. I'm not going to lie, and I spend probably 2 hours on it a day.
Mm. And of course, our is battle for hashtag battle for liberty.
Yes, we are on Twitter, and you can see us. We haven't posted any videos on yet, but we will. They're coming.
Yes, definitely. And you can see all our Trump videos, replays every time he has a rally. You'll be able to see a Trump rally here at the Bill Mason Show, so you can see it live, uncut. We have to cut
Yep.
the music out because the Rolling Stones don't like it. So other than that, we're going to show it live or record it so you can go back and take a look at it. One last thought. I mean, what's your thoughts of what's going on in the world, political, whatever you want to talk about, so we can, we'll wrap this show up. We'll be on again next week, but tell me your last thoughts.
I mean, I'm all over the map a lot of the times, and I've noticed what's going on in there's actually protests now in Chile. So all these democratic, quote unquote, socialist countries in South America that started in the 90s, and they all elected these people that were democratic socialists.
Mhm.
Chile is on the verge of collapse, so to speak. So they're at the point where they're unable to fund their transportation system, and they're unable to fund their public education system.
Right.
So those two things are at fail points.
Right. Well, they just canceled the summit there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's bad. They're lighting buses on fire in the streets. Those people are literally. I think they tripled the fare on the train and doubled it on the buses. And apparently, what you make in Chile is not much. I mean, you make enough to like go to work, pay your light bill, and apparently your light bill, from what I understand. Now, my cousin is adopted. He's Chilean, and he has family still in Chile.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, your light bill is almost like a vending machine. You go to the end of the hallway, and you have a card, and you swipe it, and it's like, I forget what he said the dollar amount is, and you get lights for 24 hours per swipe.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. Like, they are literally like teetering on failure. That country is in bad shape. And Argentina is literally, they have a banking issue. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to that. Argentina will only let you ATM 400, the equivalent of $400 of their money per day, because they're basically having a bank run because they're having problems. So South America is like really not doing well. And
you got Venezuela.
Venezuela is a
disaster.
Complete failure. It's a disaster. And that's the thing. So these Democrats will talk about socialism like it's some kind of savior. And they've had 10 to 15, some of them almost 20 years of running these socialist policies, all failing at once. You can't even say that it's not real. That conservatives make that up. Like, I've always heard the argument, oh, you don't want socialism because you just don't think that we could do it right. And then they start pounding their chest going, we're Americans. We could do whatever we want. We could make socialism work. And I'm like, I don't think so. Cuba's a failure. Ecuador's hanging on by a thread. Argentina's failing. Chile's failing. Venezuela's failing. Brazil, I think, has close to like an inflation rate that's in the thousands. Like every year. I mean, it's ridiculously failing.
Well, socialism and communism is not too far apart.
Yeah, it's the next step.
Yeah, the next step is communism. And you will have a communism. You know, it's a great idea, you know, that, the workers all kumbaya. They they give you an apartment, they give you a job, all that stuff. But it always doesn't work because the dictator emerges. You have the elite on top and you have the workers on the bottom, and it never works. The only thing works is capitalism, a free market society that's free and able to move around, able to get a job, let the free market let the prices flow up or down. Don't let the government involved. Once the government involved, it's over.
Right. And my argument always has been to people that are pro socialist, or don't you have, they say, don't you have a heart? Don't you want everyone to have these
Hmm.
things? And doesn't everyone deserve these things and all this stuff? I say to them really quickly, like, look, once you give government entities power, it never goes back. It's not like they're going to take it for 10 years and say,
Hmm.
okay, you guys are good. We're going to let you guys run. We're going to back off. And, not, it doesn't work that way. It's a
Right.
one direction rise to power,
Hmm.
and there's a dividing line that never goes away. And
Hmm.
those people that have lived in a socialist like situation are like, they're
Hmm.
equally poor.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of equality.
Hmm.
Everybody's equally struggling to survive, and everybody's equally struggling to find food. But
Right.
other than that, equality sucks in those countries.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I believe in a fair tax and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
where everybody, maybe a sales tax where everybody pays the same, or regardless of personal or company income tax. So,
yeah,
um, but taxing income, taxing everything else, it's just so many taxes that there is room to for a change for those that's concerned. They need to keep more money that they earn, and unlike the Democrats, they want to tax you to death and make you poor. And so I don't understand that they want to, because when taxation, income tax started, it's only supposed to be for the 1% wealthy,
yeah,
and then it just trickled all the way down to everybody. It's the same thing with Democrats. They'll tax somebody or rich, 28%, and they'll, oh, we need to go a little bit lower. We need to go a little lower, and then sooner or later, we're all extra taxed for whatever reason. So we need to get rid of taxes, not increasing.
Well, yeah, the scary thing about the tax the rich aspect is who's defining rich.
Hmm.
So if the poor define rich, they're going to say that I'm rich
Right.
because I eat whatever I want. I go to the food store, I buy a whole shopping cart full of food, and I pay some bills, and I'm rich in their eyes.
Hmm.
But like, I can look up the ladder too, and I could say, hey, you have several homes in like several parts of the country. You're rich. And then
Hmm.
they could look at somebody and say, well, that guy has private planes
Right.
and 2 yachts, and he has a villa in the Alps.
Hmm.
He's rich.
Yeah, and he
So,
could
I
be
mean,
struggling.
yeah, it's a sliding scale. Like,
Hmm.
when does it end? Who accuses who of rich? So,
Hmm.
I'd never like those open ended things where they say tax the rich,
Right.
because I could be considered rich someday,
Hmm.
and I don't want to be on the 90 percentile of a tax burden. I don't want to be that guy. I'll
Right.
pay my fair share always, but I don't want to be considered rich
Hmm.
overnight. And let's just say, like, whatever, this takes off, and like all of a sudden everything is good for me and life is good. And now all of a sudden they're like, you know what, Bill? You're rich. And I'm
Right.
like, no, I'm not. I just got this money.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I had talked to a family member recently, and I said, they just paid their tax bill. It was due. And I said, well, how much was it? If you don't mind me asking, $130,000. I
Yeah.
said, and they really didn't make that much money when you look at it. So, and they're not the richest person out there either. They're very modest. So
Right.
it's crazy. I mean, I don't come near my tax bill $130,000, so I don't have to worry
Yeah,
about that. But still,
that
yeah.
that's what some people struggle to make in a whole year.
Hmm.
And I think what we have to remember, that there's a huge chunk of, I guess, what I would consider, some middle class families that I know. I think they're overpaying, paying, 25 and $30,000, even though they might make a couple $100,000. I just really see, the lifestyle that they live. They're not doing anything extravagant. They're not,
Hmm.
yes, they have two nice cars and they have a decent house, but I mean, that sliding bar of who's rich and who's not is really a tough call, because everybody wants to eventually get to the point where they're not struggling. And
Hmm.
as soon as they make that line to be like, oh, you're not struggling anymore, well, then you're rich.
Right.
That's scary, man.
Exactly. Because if you live in New York, you make $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
You're not doing that well
Nope.
because the price of the homes. And if you live in certain areas of California, same way.
Yeah.
Of course, certain areas of Florida where I'm at, same
Yeah.
way. So,
Yeah. You
um,
could,
you
but
know,
guess what? I just, like I said, not to cut you off. I just went to West Virginia. Those people live on $60,000,
mhm.
and they think they're like millionaires.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, they're driving, brand new trucks, and they have acres of land, and they're happy.
hmm,
Like they think they're millionaires, and I love it. Like
I do
because
too.
they're happy people. They're making under six figures.
Hmm.
Their family's healthy. They're happy. And that's another thing I want to talk about real quick. Small town America blew my mind. The hospitality of small town America,
Hmm.
going through a town that has like cheerleaders and like a pep rally before like the big game and stuff. I can't even put that into words what that's like to see. And you understand why those people are Trump,
Hmm.
because they literally are the people that are like flyover state forgotten people. And Trump will stop there, and they will drive 4, 5, 6 hours through these mountain roads to
Hmm.
go see him, and in droves, 40, 50, 60,000. They don't even care if they get in.
Hmm.
They will wait in a parking lot with their Trump shirt on and support him through and through, because for the first time, those guys feel like, I voted for that guy. I did that.
Hmm.
And they actually feel empowered by that. So like, big ups to like small town America, and what a fine line that they have, talking to some of the people where they're trying to stay viable economically
Hmm.
without bringing in a bunch of big business that changes their town.
Right.
Like that's a very hard thing to do for those people, and those people are okay with making little I want to say like condolences, or they will give up a little bit, but they're not going to give up their life. And
Yeah.
that's what I like about the fight for the small town America. I mean, just a little thing about that, it just blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, small town America is where how America was built, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can keep some small towns in the United States
Yeah.
active. So, all right, well, we're going to sign off. I appreciate you listening to the Bill Mason Show. We're going to be on again next week. We
Yep.
will do 2 shows next week, Tuesday and Thursday, and then we'll come back to you with all the Trump rallies. I hope you join in with us again. You have a wonderful day.
Up. Good night.
Good night.